Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Connected Wellness Podcast. I am Rachel Ann. I'm here with the lovely Marianne, and we are so passionate about wellness.
Here in this podcast, we look at the ways that our physical, emotional, and spiritual health are all connected and how we can take better care of our whole selves holistically so we can live our best lives. We're really excited that you're here with us on the journey. Welcome to
Yes.
episode 26 of the podcast.
Woo, we're here.
We
26.
26, almost at the end of 2023. Yeah, stuff is just flying, time is flying. But we're
Yes.
happy
Yes,
that you're
yes, yes.
here, that you're sticking with
Yes.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
so
being here.
today we're going to kind of take what we talked about last episode, the kind of slowing down your holidays, holiday stress management. One of the big things we talked about was remembering like the meaning of this season, right? The
Yeah.
true purpose
Yeah.
of the Christmas season. And I think that we thought it was worth really diving into, especially as Christians, to take time to really talk about like, why is it so important to celebrate Christmas, what it's actually
Yeah.
about. So I'm excited to talk about
Yeah.
that. And as if I
Same.
need more excuses to feel festive. I don't, but I think this will be a great conversation.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I think it'll be a lot of important reminders for us. So,
Yeah,
yay.
absolutely. So, how about some wellness wins to start us off? Do you got one?
I do. So, my wellness win, basically, what I have been noticing is that there were some moments where I was being really harsh and negative towards myself. Like in my sorry. Now we're making songs. In my thought life, because I don't know, these past few weeks have just been like much busier on my end. If you're an entrepreneur, you know that Q4 is when we're like amping up, but also like wrapping up at the same time. So it's a very interesting energy level. And I think a few episodes ago, I was talking about how working out regularly was something I was doing. I was enjoying it. It was great. And so as things were amping up with work, I wasn't able to work out as much. There was just way too much on my plate. And I was like, okay, I'm not able to go to the gym as
Mhm.
often as I want to. And I noticed that my self talk was pretty negative. I was like, wow, Rachel, you're not prioritizing your health. Wow, Rachel, you must not care about your body, your physical wellness, even your mental health. You're not doing a good job at managing your time. Like a lot of really harsh
Mhm.
things. And I took a moment and I was like, wow, Rachel, let's like just take a pause here. You know, it's sad that you can't go to the gym as much as you want to, but these things are not true. This is just a season right now. The Bible talks about how there is a season for everything. And
Mhm.
this is just a season that I'm in right now. It is temporary, where I will not be able to go to the gym as much as I want to. That is not going to be an everyday thing. And then I also noticed that as I changed the music that I was listening to, I started to listen to more like high energy Christian music. And then it's Christmas time. So I started to listen to a bunch of Christmas songs. So I noticed that also changed my mood as well. And that made me think about environmental wellness. And I was like, wow, how
Mhm.
changing my environment, right? We have the tree up, we have different candles up, how that kind of helped me deal with those negative thoughts and understand that literally it is such a different season, that the music I'm listening to is different, that the decorations in my home is different. When I go outside, right? I live in New York City, so people are decorating, stores are decorating with
Mhm.
lights now. So I was like, literally, it's a different season right now, Rachel. We can offer ourselves grace and compassion, still be honest with
Mhm.
ourselves, you know, and say, man, I really wish I'd go to the gym. If I can schedule some time here, I'm going to do it. But also understanding the limitations of the season for certain areas of my life.
Right.
So that's my wellness when defeating and conquering the negative thoughts.
Yeah, and that's such a great example of challenging your thoughts and realizing
Mm-hmm.
that just because you think it doesn't make it true.
Yes.
So you have a
Yes.
thought, I'm not doing a good job, right? But when
Mm-hmm.
you challenge that, you're like, no, that's not true. It's just this is a different season, So that's such a good reminder in general, to challenge your thoughts. And just because they pop into our head, it does not make them fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a part of it too was like, oh my gosh, if I stop working out, I'm going to like gain all of this weight back. For me, weight loss is a goal that I have. So I'm going to gain all this weight back. My muscles are not going to be as strong as they were.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, like Rachel, if that happens, like you're gonna keep going back to the gym. Like
Mm-hmm.
we know how this ends, and I know you have shared your wellness journey, your physical wellness journey. So I'm sure you've had moments where it's like, oh my god, if I stop, what's gonna happen
Oh,
here? You
100%.
know,
Yeah.
I think it's just part of the journey. So
Right.
trying to offer myself grace there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks,
sure you know
Marianne.
that you're doing your best. Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate the reminder. I appreciate it.
Tomorrow's a
Have
new day. It's almost a new month, a new year. Like there's always a chance to try again.
yes.
Yeah, to tweak the
Yeah.
priorities, kind of like we talked about before. Certain things become priority at certain times, and I think yeah, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Marianne? What's your wellness win?
So mine is 100% inspired by our last episode. So, you know, right after the last episode recorded, we actually started our Christmas decorating, which we always do
Mm.
right after Thanksgiving. And, we go pretty nuts for Christmas. I mean, we're not like Griswold status, like outside with the lights or anything, but inside the house is pretty much completely transformed for Christmas. And we
mm.
love it. And we 100% love it. It's like a lot of work, but we both love it, Chris and I. But this season, we were having like guests over pretty soon
Mm.
after we were doing our decorating. And normally, how it works is we just like bring up a whole bunch of boxes and it's kind of like mass chaos for like a week or two until everything gets its place, right? Because it's like too much for
Mm-hmm.
one time. But I was like, we can't do that. Like, we're having guests over. I don't want it to be a big mess. So we did it so it was like one thing at a time came up.
Uh-huh.
The decorations were put up and then the empty box went downstairs. It was like very systematic. And then every once in a while, Chris would bring up a box, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to put this stuff up. Like, that's okay. We don't need that.
Mm.
That's not important. What's more important to me is the Christmas trees. There are certain things that like really bring us joy when we see them. So we
Yeah.
didn't put out all of our decorations, and we were both like, "Are you okay with this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Chris, are you okay with this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay with this." And it just felt so good to be like, we didn't have to do it all because we always do it all, right?
Yeah.
And we still can enjoy the season. We had less stress, less mess. Um, but what I think is so funny is that if someone comes into our house and they're like, this is less than usual, they would probably be very surprised because there are still 4 Christmas trees, which
Yeah.
those are the important things that we have our 4 trees up and, some specific little things. But yeah, I'm loving that it's like less cluttered, that we appreciate more the things that are out. Oh, and
Yeah.
and I was like, this is big. Like as soon as I was like okay with not putting it all out, I was like, this is a wellness win. Like this is big. I was like, Chris, this is my wellness win.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm pretty happy about that.
Wow. Oh my God. Marianne, that's huge. So for y'all who don't know Marianne, I don't know anybody on the face of the planet who loves Christmas more than Marianne does. Okay. And God bless her husband. He just hops along and is like, I am
Mm-hmm.
here for it too. So the fact that you're able to say, wow, this is actually stressing me out. I'm not going to do as much and still feel really joyful about
Mm-hmm.
Christmas. That is amazing, girl. That is so incredible. And I
Thank
am
you.
sure it still looks like a winter wonderland in your
It's
home.
it's still,
I
yeah, it's
am
still
sure.
beautiful and joyful and festive and yeah, but I actually love it. And I'm like definitely gonna be on a declutter kick. So I think this was just like,
Mm,
one of the initial steps. Like we don't need all of the stuff, like
mm.
yeah. So I'm
Oh, I
excited.
love that. We should have an
Yeah.
episode about decluttering soon.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. To start next year, I'm all about that. Yeah. I would be
Mm-hmm.
down with that. So yeah, I'm happy for our wellness wins. Yay for
Yay,
us.
wellness! Good job, team.
So last episode again really had me thinking between that and this, what is the true meaning of Christmas? Now, okay, clearly you and I are Christian. A lot of people listening are Christian. Like we know we are celebrating the birth of Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But why is this something that we need to take the time to reflect on, that we need to like celebrate, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily celebrate with trees and presents and, dinners and whatever. Like we need to celebrate it more mindfully and like reflectively, if that's a word, right? Like it
Yeah.
takes some internal reflection. So like, why? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really important for many reasons, but the top thing that comes to my mind is because where we are right now, where we live in the world and society wise, the message of Christmas is really consumeristic. I'm not throwing shade at businesses. I am a business, right? I'm not throwing shade at the desire for people to buy gifts. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think that it is at such a heightened level that we are like thinking that, oh, the purpose of the holiday is something that's more consumeristic, or
Mm-hmm.
it's something in material things, whereas for us Christians, the purpose of the holiday is hope, because we have Emmanuel, God with us, right? And so that is what we're celebrating. We're celebrating God with us. Gifts are really, really great, all of that. But because the noise of consumerism is very
Mm-hmm.
loud, it can just be really easy to like seep into it and kind of forget Jesus, forget Emmanuel, forget Nazareth and all of that. It can be easy, and not anything wrong with you and your brain if you're like, oh my gosh, I keep
Right.
forgetting. No, it's just the noise of the world is really loud. The Bible talks about that.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to make conscious and intentional efforts to remember, just like we need reminders to work out, we need reminders for the habits and the things that we care about. It's the same thing. We need to be reminded of like, oh yeah, this is what it is through the noise and all of that. This is actually about Jesus. There's a
Yeah.
song that literally says Jesus is the reason for
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah.
So, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I was thinking to myself, like, why do I love Christmas so much? Right. I mean, there's probably
Mm.
many reasons to that, but honestly, like, I feel like Christmas is all about the best parts about being a Christian, like the warm and fuzzy parts
Mm.
about Christianity. So if you think about it, hope, you mentioned, it's about love, it's about peace, it's about joy, it's about being a light, to one another because the light of
Yeah.
the world has come. So all of those things are for me what I love about being Christian and what I strive for, on a regular basis to show
Yeah.
Christ, instead of to like keep that Christianity to myself, to that faith to myself. So I think if
Mm.
we can focus on those things, and like you mentioned, gifts, and gifts again I love gift giving and receiving, so I love gifts and I have no problem with that. But if we also focus on like, well, how can I gift peace? How can I
Mm.
gift joy? How can I be the light?
Mm.
How can I feel the gift of God's presence, right? Emmanuel, God
Mhm.
with us. Like, so these very intangible things that we can maybe take some action. And yes, gift your loved ones something physical, but maybe also make an intention to gift them some peace and love and joy and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It reminds me of last episode where we were talking about slowing down for the holidays. And one of the things was like, give yourself the gift of peace this holiday season, right? Give yourself that gift of whatever you need for this holiday season to be that's in alignment with God, of course. So I love that. Give
Yeah.
gifts even more than just the tangible things.
Yeah. So that makes me think, like, especially, I remember you said this last episode too, like, how badly do we need hope right
Mm.
now? So, what are ways that we can be providing hope for others, that we can be a source of
Mhm.
peace in a very unpeaceful world, right? There's like
Mm.
so
Mhm.
much, just I don't even want to talk about it, but like just destruction and chaos and violence and like emotional violence, just horrible stuff surrounding us on a regular basis. Like, what are some small ways that we can take initiative to be a source of peace and light and hope?
Yeah, yeah. I think one part of it is like acknowledging the very real reality that like the world is a lot right now. All of like the bad things you can imagine is like kind of happening,
Hmm.
right? At some part of the world. And so it's really sad and difficult to deal with. And as you acknowledge that, asking yourself, okay, what does it look like for me to exist in this space? What does it look like for me to bring light in this situation, right? So that's like one way. Maybe it's donations, maybe it's awareness, maybe it's advocacy, some type of humanitarianism, stuff like that. And then I think on the other other hand too is thinking about, okay, who are the people that I know in my life that could use some support right now, and what does that look like? Because like we spoke about last time, for a lot of people the holidays are like really complicated. They could be joyful, but they also could be grieving, or they could be experiencing some sadness, or there could be some loneliness. And so thinking about the people in your life, what are the needs that they have, thinking about their circumstances. Like me, for example, there's a friend that comes to mind who's grieving. So what I want to do during this time is really make sure I'm there for them more than I would be during other times of the
Mm-hmm.
year, because this could be exceptionally difficult for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so thinking about that, and then also thinking about what are the things that you would like to receive and how you can give that to other people. So I appreciate Christmas playlists. I appreciate like texting, and just checking in and like, hi, how are you, right? So I appreciate when people do that for me. I'll do that for other people that I know too. Even if they're really excited about the holiday and there's no
Mm-hmm.
grieving or no sadness with it, you're still just reaching out to say, hi, like, I see you, I remember you, I care about you, how are you? And building it that way. And it's in our actions, like how we embody those things. So how we embody peace is by being a peaceful presence in the world. How
Mm-hmm.
we embody joy is being a joyful presence in the world. And how we show up in our relationships, in our church communities. This is a time where a lot of people do a lot of volunteering, which I think is great. If we're talking about things that make God happy, it's like when we are taking time to support and fight for justice and advocate and meet the needs of our neighbors that are
Mm-hmm.
in need of something.
Mm-hmm.
So just taking a look around and saying, what are the needs that I see and how can I realistically fill them? Because we can't fill all of them, because
Right.
we are people, but there is something we can do. And if everybody did their little bit of something, it would be a huge ocean. I
Yeah.
think I forgot where it says it in the Bible, but a huge ocean, a huge wave of justice can happen. A huge wave of advocacy and care can happen if we all do our little drops of care.
Yeah.
It leads to a big sea of care that people can really
Yeah.
experience. So that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And again, like gifts, just if you took the time, some of us stress a little too much about finding like the perfect gift. So I don't know if anyone relates to that, but like if you took the time that you were like looking and shopping and whatever for someone's gift and maybe just spent that time with them, right? Like how much different and more impactful could that be? Spending time together, taking that person and going and volunteering together somewhere, it could be so much different than just, hey, I ordered this off of Amazon for you. I think it
Yeah.
means a lot. But what you were saying about, again, the state of the world, it reminds me, Jesus himself told us, you will have tribulation in the world, but
Mhm.
be of good cheer. I have overcome the world, right? So again,
Mm.
what better time, like even though it might feel hard a little bit to celebrate when there's so much bad stuff happening, Jesus himself says, yes, that bad stuff is going to happen, and he said that 2000 years ago, and I'm sure he meant it for until he comes again. Like there will be
Mhm.
tribulation in the world for all of humanity, but be of good cheer. Look at that word. That
Mm.
word is definitely a Christmas word, have cheer. Be of good cheer, I
Mhm.
have overcome the world. So of course we should still be celebrating his coming. Like this is exactly the time to celebrate. Like yes, things kind of suck, and for a lot of people it's like could be really
Yeah.
horrible, but this is why
Yeah.
we need to remind ourselves more than ever, Jesus can overcome whatever difficulty we're having. We should always have hope regardless of how bad our circumstances can feel, yeah, personally
Yeah.
or unfortunately on a societal level. The circumstances feel pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw this thing on Instagram the other day, which was like what we're experiencing right now in the world. And we can't go into specifics because YouTube will block us. So yeah, but I have a hunch y'all know what we're talking about. With the things that are happening in this world right now is very similar to what was happening when Jesus was born. And so it's a very interesting time, especially for us Christians, to be thinking about, like, wow, what is the Lord calling us to do at this time? Jesus being born said, hey, Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And so if they're very similar circumstances, but it was in biblical times versus in 2023, what are the things that we can learn from this moment? What are the ways we're supposed to act and operate in this moment? What are we seeing the people do in the Bible in the time to come of when Christ was being born? And how can we mimic those things, right? So I think that's a really powerful reminder. And I think another powerful reminder is that there is God. There's many characteristics of God, right? God is a deliverer. He is a liberator. He rescues people. There's also God who is with us, which is literally what we're celebrating. He's with us in the suffering, right? He's God comforter. He's God our friend. And for a lot of people who are experiencing a hardship during this time, we probably need the God of our friend who's like sitting in the darkness with us, right? We're not ready to turn the light on yet. We don't have the energy to turn the light on yet. We just need somebody to sit with us in the darkness and the suffering that we're experiencing. And then through that companionship, through that love and that relationship we experience, that is how we'll be able to start to get up and we'll start to turn the light on and we'll start to see the hope again. And so that's always an encouragement. I literally was just talking about this the other day with somebody. It's always an encouragement during this time. Like, we see God entering the world in this very unique way that just kind of throws everything upside down that we knew about what God would be. He throws it totally out the window and is like, surprise, it's actually going to be very different. And I think he's showing us what God with us actually means. So I think that could be helpful during our reflection time, because I know we'll talk about this in another episode, but as we reflect the end of the year and we start to think about what the next year is going to be like, something that's helpful is thinking about, how has God been present with me during this year, right? What has it been like for me to receive the love of God and the care and the comfort and the friendship of God during hard times? And I think Christmas is a time to be reflecting on that specifically too.
Right, because speak about a gift, right? And the gift, this is going to be super cheesy, but I kind of want to know if anyone will get this. So, speak about a gift that keeps on giving all year long, right? It's not a Jelly of the Month Club. It is Jesus, right? He comes on
Yeah.
Christmas, but he's here with us all the time. But I'm really curious. That may have sounded weird if you're not a Christmas movie fanatic. But if anyone knows that reference, please let me know so I don't feel crazy, okay? The Jelly of the Month Club is a reference. But you said something that really made me think of something. Okay. You said something that made me think of something. That's literally every conversation we have. But okay, you said that Jesus came in a very unique way, right? A unique, unexpected way. The Messiah, the King of Kings, came, born in a stable where the animals were eating, to not very affluent parents, raised in a very normal way, right? So one of the things that actually, if you guys remember Father Daniel, when he was our guest, he was just talking about this last week, that one of the things we can contemplate at Christmas is that it shows us the humility of Christ, right? That he had every choice, he is God, of how he wanted to be born, in what circumstance and what place, to what kind of parents. And he chose to be born that way, for a reason, to show us that he came to be with us, like you said, not to be, he is God, but he didn't come to be like a king above us. He came to be, like you said, a companion, to suffer with us and to show us how to overcome, the struggles. So that's a whole other separate thing we could contemplate on is the humility of Christ. And there's these verses from Philippians that tell us that we should have the mind of Christ. And specifically, it talks about his humility, how he not only chose to be born a human, basically like a servant in the likeness of men, and humbled himself to the point of death on the cross, right? These verses out of Philippians 2. But this idea of let my mind be like the mind of Christ, especially in this idea of humility. And that,
Mm,
oh my God, like is so powerful because I think a lot of us have a problem with feeling entitled to certain things. And when things aren't going our way and we're struggling, why do we struggle so much with that is because we're like, well, I should have this, I should have that, I shouldn't have to go
yeah.
through this. And why do we feel like that? Why are we
Yeah.
entitled to a good life? I don't really know, but I think that some
Yeah.
humility, a perspective like the mind of Christ, could help us overcome that a little bit.
Oh, Marian, that was so good. I wholeheartedly agree with that. The humility. Wow. It makes me think about a few different things. One, if we think about the circumstances of how Christ entered the world, right? Nazareth was not like a New York City. You know what I mean? Nazareth was a very difficult place, lots of lack of resources, things of that nature. Um, how do we treat people that would be in the immediate village of where Jesus was born? I think it really calls into question of that. And to the humility piece, we humble ourselves to say, I'm not thinking with any judgments or perceptions about how things should be. I'm really just looking at my friend or whoever it is that we are serving at the time and what their needs are and how I can meet them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking away any, like, you should do this. No, right? And so if Jesus, the Son of God, was born in harsh circumstances in a place where many people of 2023 would be like, no, I don't want to live there. I don't want to be born there. Those circumstances are very, very harsh, right? But the Son of God was born there. So as Christians, what are we doing to people in communities that are very similar in those situations?
Mm-hmm.
And how can we act from a place of humility to care for our neighbors in that way?
Right.
And then it also makes me think about this very, my husband says this all the time, so much of being a Christian is existing in the tension, right? So how do we listen to the verse where say that like Jesus died for us to live abundantly, and also the verse that says that without Jesus we are nothing? In Ecclesiastes, everything is meaningless. So if everything is meaningless, but Jesus wants us to die and live an abundant life for him, like they seem very, very opposite. And I think that is part of the beauty of being a Christian is we seek the Lord more to understand what is it like to live in that tension.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we're really highlighting here is like, if you want to, like, having mad money is not a problem, right? If you want to live a lavish lifestyle, cool, do you. But it's really, what is your heart about? And sorry, burps, is your heart towards God and for God's people in a way that it is humble, right? Like, do you still believe and still really appreciate that if Jesus did nothing else but save you, you would be fine?
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't be like, our expectations literally should be like, wow, Jesus saved my life. Whoa, like that's
Mm-hmm.
good. If he did nothing else, you know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
think the consumerism of this time can make us say, like, well, this person got this really nice gift, or like, wow, this person is doing this really like lavish, big like vacation and stuff like that. And that's very real, right? I'm not knocking those things, but it's like, are we really going back to the root of things? Go on your vacation as long as you know what the root of the holiday is, the root of your Christianity is.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires, just like you said, humility. We humble ourselves and we're like, wow, God, like, it is not me that got this job. It is not me that got this home. It is not me that has all the opportunities. It is you.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that you decided to do for me. And I'm so undeserving of that, right? I show humility to the Lord. Whatever God wants for me is what I'm going to do. My obedience to the Lord, it's a yes, right? I'm still going to be scared. I'm still going to be nervous. I'm still going to whine, but it's a yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the humility that I have to be like, I trust God more than me. Who am I to say anything counter to the creator of the universe who loves me?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, I just got really meta. I'm so sorry. But it's very like, whoo, it's a lot to think about, and it's very layered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think humility is an important topic that we might want to talk about another time, because I think it can be
Yeah.
very misunderstood, that humility
Mm-hmm.
means I'm supposed to like think that I am nothing and I have nothing and I am not valuable, which I think it couldn't be more opposite of what's actually true. Humility, I'll just say
Yep.
my quick piece because I maybe we can talk about it again, is just more about where's your focus, right? So like you
Yep.
said, everything that I have, and I have value. God would not have died for me if I don't have value. I was created in
Yep.
his image. I am actually infinitely valuable to him, right? So value
Yes.
I have, worth I have, talent I have 100% because he's given me these things, but because he has given me these things, right? Not of my own ability. Yes, I work hard, and that's great because that's honoring the
Mm-hmm.
gifts and the resources that he's given me. So, yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
humility is all about where's your focus. So, if your focus is
Mm-hmm.
on, I did this, I have this, I deserve this, that's the problem, versus, thank you, God, you gave me this, you are leading me to this, whatever you say, I'll do. That's the difference there. But yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
that
Wow.
that's an important, and maybe not something we would think to tie in with Christmas. Maybe the peace, hope, and
Yeah.
joy and mushy stuff that I love so much is clearly about Christmas, but humility, not really until you look at a nativity scene, right? Like, look at a
Mm-hmm.
nativity
Mm-hmm.
scene, see where Jesus was born. He was surrounded, and like, yeah, maybe it's cute that there's sheep and cows and donkeys in the little nativity scene, but like, do you think that was really cute? Like, how did that smell? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I have not had a
Yeah.
baby, but like, poor Mary, having to give birth to a baby in those conditions. So yeah, I don't know. The humility definitely has a role in Christmas that I don't think we consider enough.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot that I want to say. I'm not going to say them because we're going to save it for the next, for another episode. We're going to talk all about humility. But I do love that. I do love that you're highlighting kind of like, I don't know, the secrets of Christmas, like the things that we know are there, but we don't really highlight or take the time to see it sometimes. Um, so yeah, I just think that you highlighted something really special that we don't always notice about Christmas.
So shout out to Father Daniel if anyone's listening wants to thank him
Yay!
for that
Thanks, Father Daniel.
idea. But yeah, yeah. So I want to go back actually to something you said because this is
Mm,
probably my takeaway. That it's about Jesus being our companion, right? Going through
mm,
the stuff with us. And that's like, so in the Orthodox Church, this Advent season is a time of fasting and extra prayer. And why are we, taking the time out to do these extra things is because we want to prepare ourselves to receive Jesus, right, on
mm,
Christmas. And so, like, how can I actually take this practically or do something about this practically is I want to be able to enjoy this companionship, this time with Jesus. And perhaps this is a time to step up my devotional time. It's a time to maybe have an
mm,
extra Bible reading plan that has to do with Emmanuel, God with us, right? With Jesus
yeah.
being with me. And there's a ton of ideas. Like if you even just Google it, Christmas Bible reading plan, you'll have a
Mm,
lot, or Advent reading plan. So that's something for me to take away, especially in the busyness of the season. We need it even more than ever. Like my
mm,
initial thought is, well, I'm too busy to do extra anything right now, but that's why I need it even more, because if I let myself just keep getting busy, I'm going to forget more and more about Jesus. Like you said, we're so conditioned by society to think that this time is about the decorations and the gifts and the stuff and the lights, and that of course it's so easy to just let the real meaning slip away. So that's why, yeah.
mm.
And maybe if you want to carve out some special devotion time in front of your sparkly Christmas tree, that might be nice. I'm feeling like that might be what I want to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh, I love
yeah, just
that.
enjoying the presence of Jesus with us,
Mm,
because that's what this is all about.
mm. Yeah, it reminds me of this is so random. It reminds me of some advice that I got in my premarital counseling. And the pastor was like, the purpose of your wedding is to celebrate your marriage. So make sure you are focusing on your marriage. Yes, you want to have a nice wedding, but we need, what we're preparing for is like a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with Christmas, it's like, yes, like the lights and the trees and all of that, it's meant to highlight the purpose, which is Jesus.
Right.
And so making sure we don't get lost in the sauce of the celebration, and that we're forgetting what is the reason why we are here and why we are celebrating. And I think having more devotional time makes sense, because if this is a time we're supposed to be really remembering, we're supposed to remember it all the time, right? Like they say for Valentine's Day, you should love your spouse all the time, but you just really do it up on
Yeah.
Valentine's
Mm-hmm.
Day. Absolutely. I feel you on that. So it's the same with Christmas. We should always be recognizing and having our devotional time, but how much more during this specific time where literally the world is like taking the time to celebrate, right? And it really makes me think about oh, I forgot what episode it was, but it was an episode where we talked about intentionality and how the things that we care about you could see in our schedules. And so what does it look like to add more devotional time? What does it look like to do more time with friends and adding peace to their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to doing the things that bring about the Christmas like feelings that you want the people around you to have? What does it look like for you to spend more time serving your neighbors and the people in your community or people outside of your community? And so taking the time to really just look at that and say, during this season, I am called to do XYZ that's in relation to what it means to me for Christ to come into the world.
Mm-hmm.
How can I show that in the other spaces that I'm in? So yeah, more devotional time, more Jesus time, period.
Mm-hmm.
Devotional time, fellowshipping in a way that is godly, caring for your neighbors, stuff like that. So I love that.
Right.
I love that a lot.
Yeah, and if you just need a place to start, we have this set of seven, I think it's seven ornaments of like the names of
Mm,
Jesus. That if you just
mm,
contemplated on those, like, Almighty God, Wonderful Counselor, Emmanuel, Prince of Peace, right? Son of God. So if you think about each one of those names and internalize that, like, what does it mean that he is my wonderful counselor? What does it mean
yeah.
that he is my savior? Like each one of those you could contemplate on for multiple days. Like what does it mean that he is my savior, and look up some verses about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, really is
Mm.
Jesus is the reason for the season, and there's so many ways that we can acknowledge that, warm and fuzzy,
Mm.
but for me it's, if we just even take, try and do one thing a day, like, the random acts of
Mm.
kindness, ideas and things, like try and do one thing a day that would be a light to somebody, that would share
Mm.
joy, share hope, share love, with someone. I just think that that could be huge. It could be like a tiny little thing to you, but it could make a big difference to someone. And when you add that up
Yeah.
over a few weeks, that's going to make a big difference to yourself too. To
Yes.
have really experienced what it means to celebrate God with us.
I love that idea of thinking about the seven names of Jesus, and like how has God showed up in your life as Prince of Peace, as Wonderful Counselor, as all of those things, because that's what makes a relationship with
Mm,
God. Not practicing a religion and doing a bunch of rituals and like things, but we're not really sure what the meaning is behind it. It doesn't feel personal, it doesn't feel transformative. It's those types of questions of like, how has God shown up in my life in these different ways that makes a religion
hmm.
personal, and it makes it like a relationship. And so I love that idea so much.
We'll have to make
I
sure to
think that might be my
post all
takeaway.
seven.
Yeah.
Jesus was one of the seven, so there's like six others, other than Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to make sure to post those.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think that'll be my takeaway. Yeah. Anything else before we start to wrap up? I know we covered it. Whew,
It's a
we've covered a
lot.
lot. But I know we were very jazzed about this topic. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, anything else, Marianne, before you wrap
I
up?
just wish everyone a warm and fuzzy time. Even if you're struggling, just remember the hope that Jesus offers, right? That's what we're
Yeah.
celebrating now. And if you don't buy one present, who cares? You know what I mean? That's not what this is about. I'm sure your loved ones will understand. Um, it's just remember what it's really about, and let yourself enjoy that no matter what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's very real. I hope that for people who are having a difficult time, for people who are having a difficult time right now, that they know they can reach out for support. You know, um, it's very understandable to think about how this time can be filled with complexities. And so my hope is that you don't force yourself to like be a happy camper if you're like, I'm actually not a happy camper. But I do hope that you receive the support and care and allowing other people in your life to be the light of Jesus for
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
in a way that is healthy and filling and godly. And so like we mentioned last time, we'll put down the link for a holiday stress book that I have. It's a workbook, so if you're somebody who is struggling, check out the workbook. It has lots of coping mechanisms, boundaries, celebration alternatives, and just a lot of like why this time can be hard and what to do about it type of thing. We want to make sure we're walking with you in that way, so we would also love to hear from you. Tell us how this time is for you. What is like a big takeaway that you want to bring into your Christmas season, into your
Hmm.
Christmas reflection? If you want to reach out to us on Instagram, you can find us there at Connected Wellness Podcast. If you want to reach out to Marianne specifically, she's at Waba Saba. If you want to reach out to me, I'm at Rue with Rachel Ann. We're also on Facebook at Connected Wellness Podcast on Facebook. And you can email us at connectedwellnesspodcast@gmail.com. All of that will be linked below. And we would love to hear from you about sorry, we'd love to hear me burp. We would love to hear from you about what's going on in your world. What are things that you would like to hear from us as we're thinking about 2024 and we're planning our episodes? Tell us the topics and the things that's going on in your world, and we would love to walk alongside you in whatever way we can do that. So if it's in an episode, if it's reaching out and just having conversations, we would really love to do that. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Marianne.
Thank you so much for joining us. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and be well until next time.
Be well, everybody. Merry Christmas. Bye.